Gothic 2 has a beautifully handcrafted starting area that always feels good to come back to. The intimate world design of the first two games allowed you to have more meaningful encounters, especially in the early game. While already fighting big and supposedly epic battles against the orcs at the beginning of Gothic 3, I remembered the humble beginnings on Khorinis and how every little step felt 1,000 times more rewarding than liberating a whole city from its oppressors and rebels. Ardea, for example, feels like an empty husk of a starting area, with no good reasons to return there afterwards. Yes, it is indeed a nice coastal city where you get introduced to the situation on the mainland, and yes, the music is also fine, but the rest is like Skyrim, a very vast but shallow experience. The wide plains surrounding Ardea have barely anything to offer. The occasional random loot, some animals to kill, but never something impactful that makes you feel the progress of your journey. If you would not explore the area at all and move directly to the next city, there would be no downsides to that. Barely anything to take away from these first 30 to 60 minutes. The second entry in the series feels like the developers really thought about what Gothic 1 lacked and created a challenging yet comprehensible tutorial with a lot of optional ways to explore. You begin the journey in Xardas' tower, and after introducing you to your main objective and giving you an overview about the general situation after your success in the Sleeper Temple, you are free to go. Your goal is getting into the city of Khorinis, but you are weak and need every single bit of help. Xardas can't offer you much, but you are free to take everything in his abode, and he tells you to check out the small dale below his tower, which can be accessed via a hidden tunnel at a pond nearby.
See the lake right in front of my tower. A secret passage leads to the valley from there.
The beginnings in the Gothic franchise are unforgiving and hard, especially for new players, so it is of utmost importance to check every little nook and cranny for items that could make your life easier. After leaving the tower, being equipped with a stick that you found at the Necromancer's fireplace, some potions, herbs, and a very useful belt of strength, you begin exploring the outdoors. If you are of curious and explorative nature, you will of course check what is behind the tower, and you will be awarded with some useful basic spell scrolls. Now, following the way leading to the city, you will encounter a neutral monster, a sheep. This sheep's positioning is actually really important because new players can now, for the first time, use the combat system. There is no resistance, but you learned your lesson, how to draw your weapon and swing it. Moving forward, your attention is now caught by the pond to your left, and of course the noises emitting from that general area, rushing water, and some weird grunts. You now stand face to face with a goblin. Don't get fooled by this little guy, he will probably kill you. And after reloading, you finally manage to kill that pest and explore the area surrounding the body of water. You pick up some herbs, and behind a few trees you will find your first ranged weapon, with some arrows and health potions. The bow is a very strong weapon right at the start, but ammunition is limited, so you have to choose wisely when to use it. You turn back, and Xardas' words come to your mind.
See the lake right in front of my tower. A secret passage leads to the valley from there.
After taking a closer look, you move into the tunnel, and soon your ears pick up a whole conversation of these grunts you heard before. 3 goblins guarding treasure. Sure, you could try to fight all 3 of them, and maybe you're lucky and land some critical hits, even killing them, but that is unlikely for many new players. And now, Gothic teaches you a very important lesson. Don't hoard, get them floored. There is an excellent video by Game Dev Adventures about this very common philosophy in RPGs, that you better keep all those powerful one-time use items for a potential later use. Gothic, however, gives you enough options to deal with this situation. First, you can brute force a solution with a lot of saving and reloading. Second, You can come back later once you're strong enough. And third, use the items. You could just run down the main tunnel, past all the enemies, but the experience and treasure is too good and you don't want to waste it in the early game. So what do? Well, now is the time to use your newly acquired bow with its limited ammunition. Sure, you might need to stand pretty close to the goblins because you're a bloody beginner with ranged weapons, but just one hit is enough to kill one of these little runts. You proceed, and down in the little dale you will find more creatures, but most of them are young animals, basically weaker versions of their adult counterparts, and it is totally possible to kill them with a stick. A cave nearby, filled with rats, holds even more treasure, included but not limited to a leather satchel with 50 gold pieces. It doesn't sound much, but these smaller treasures really add up. Every single item that you pick up in the early game is of value. Plants will regenerate health and mana, or can be used to brew powerful potions later on. Fluff items with no use can be sold. Scrolls can help you out in moments of desperation, and rings or amulets will boost your stats, which is very important if you want to use powerful magics or better weapons which demand more mana, dexterity, or strength. But the most powerful resource of them all I will reveal now: experience. Gaining enough will grant you a level up. Each level increases your health and therefore survivability, and you get 10 skill points to spend. This is the reason why I usually go to great lengths to waste no potential kill, especially in the early game. I'd rather reload the game 3 times than letting a NPC kill those mole rats, wolves, or scavengers. Back to the dale below Xardas' tower, because we haven't talked about the actual treasure yet. Lester. Your old acquaintance Lester from back in the colony is sitting here at a campfire. He's your friend and had a rough time himself, but talking to him isn't just nice for nostalgia's sake, but he tells you an important piece of information about how to enter Khorinis.
Do you have any suggestions how I could get into town?
I certainly do. I worked for an old alchemist named Constantino some time ago. He has great influence in the city, and he's instructed the guards at the gate to let anyone through who can sell him rare herbs. So it's quite easy, really. You collect a large bunch of the plants that grow here all over the place, and then you pretend you're working for Constantino, and in you go. But don't collect a mix of this and that. The guards aren't all that bright, and they know nothing about alchemy. The bundle needs to look good to them if you want to get through.
The first half an hour is all about getting acquainted with the game's mechanics, but your main goal is getting access into the city, but that's easier said than done. If you tell Lester to seek out Xardas, this will eventually turn out in your favor, but this shall be mentioned later on. You get back on the mountain path and find a man called Cavalorn being attacked by goblins. After saving him, you will have the option to take on some bandits with him. Before that, you should talk with the bandits standing next to some stairs leading into their hideout. If you choose the right dialogue options, he will eventually reveal some very valuable information that sheds some light on the finale of the first chapter.
10 gold pieces for the name of the guy who raised the bounty.
Oh man, I really can't do that.
Spit it out already.
Oh man, alright. His name is Dexter. Near the big farm there's a steep rock. There's a watchtower up there, and a few mines. He has his hideout somewhere nearby.
Head back to Cavalorn and group up with him. If you're accompanied with an NPC, you will still get the experience, even if you didn't land the killing blow. Unfortunately, there are some exceptions to this rule. The bandits are no problem. You are closer to the next level up, get some useful items, and get your next important quest. Cavalorn leaves then, and you head towards the first settlement, Lobart's farm. If you are very daring, you could go back through the hidden passage at Cavalorn's campfire to fight some real tough creatures, and the additional experience would come in handy quite a bit, but for now, you move on. Maleth, the shepherd, is suspicious about your arrival at first, but you can easily win him over once you tell him that you got robbed by bandits, but got rid of them in the process. He also gives you another piece of advice on how to access the city.
And you have to know what they want to hear.
And that would be?
Well, for example, that you're from Lobart's farm and want to go to the smith in the city. But that won't do you any good. You don't look like a farmer.
I see.
It's never bad to earn some brownie points, and you realize soon that your efforts won't be in vain. When you talk to Lobart, he gives you an exposition about the political situation here on the island, but also offers work for a day laborer. Your reward? Good honest coin, or a better price for a farmer's attire. The choice is pretty easy, and by helping him, you can save quite a lot of money on that armor. Admittedly, picking turnips isn't the most rewarding experience after fighting an ancient archdemon and freeing hundreds of people from a prison, but you have to start somewhere. Bringing the harvest to his wife Hilda reduces the price of the attire even more, but Hilda has another task for you. Buy her a pan from the local merchant. Canthar is a dubious character, and you find the kitchen utensil in his inventory, but he also offers you something else. A pass for entering the city. For free. Well, kind of, because there is a twist to it. It is your decision, but there could be potential drawbacks in the future. You go back for now. You already won Maleth over, and he gave you some wine as a reward. If you talk to Vino on the fields, you can give him one of the bottles so he puts a good word in for you to his boss, and he also gives you a hint at something lurking in the nearby woods.
Is there any interesting news?
I could have sworn I saw an orc over there on the edge of the woods 2 days ago. Since then, I've kept at least one eye open at night.
Lobart is willing to sell the attire for a measly 35 gold pieces. What a deal! By the way, you can get it even cheaper if you told him earlier that you are in favor of the peasants and not the king. You are now standing in front of the city gates, and you already have quite a few options to access it. 1. Maleth's Way. Tell the guard you come from the farm and have tools on you that need to be repaired at the blacksmith. For this, you need to wear the farmer's attire. 2. Leicester's Way. Explain that you gathered some herbs for the alchemist, but you need to have 10 plants of one kind in your inventory. 3. You can bribe the guard with 100 gold pieces. 4. Use Canthar's pass, but remember, there is a catch. 5. You can climb over the city walls by using a big mushroom to stand on. Digger's Meat, for example, and yes, there are indeed other places like climbing the mountains near the lighthouse on the other side of Khorinis, drop down into the sea, or directly into the harbor. Obviously, the choice is yours, but there might be some restrictions. Maybe you haven't collected enough plants or you needed them to heal up. Maybe you don't have enough gold to bribe the guards, or you didn't trust a salesman with his ominous pass that he is handing out for free. You might also have stumbled upon a shady man in pirate's clothing that you gave your farmer's attire to for some gold and experience. If you were thorough enough, you won't have any problems to get into the city one way or another, but Gothic gives you all these interesting choices. Choices that other RPGs lack, and even after 23 years could still learn from this jewel from the past. This area is still relevant in later chapters, and while many games just abandon their starting zones, Gothic lets you come back from time to time. If you told Lester to join Xardas, you can return later and receive a nice defensive ring that boosts your magic resistance. Lobart, his wife, and Maleth will have some trouble later on, and the caves nearby will eventually become important too, depending on which faction you chose. This area won't be dead once you passed through, and its changes makes the world feel alive. Not bad at all for a game that is so old. Even though I love Gothic 1 for its story and ambience, Gothic 2 is just so much better at teaching you the game without any hand-holding. Step by step, a new gameplay element is introduced to you. Picking up items and opening chests in a non-combat environment, fighting against a creature that doesn't defend itself, using magics, the mechanics of an escort quest while fighting humanoid creatures who use a different attack style than animals, exploring your surroundings for loot and learning that sometimes it is for the better to just come back later instead of trying hard to get past certain enemies. It is also a lesson in using items that you found on your journey. Sure, you can hold on to powerful spells until the end game, but using them in a timely manner when you run against a blockade, they will clear the way and also reward you very handsomely. Early on, this is a big advantage, and you can get into the city with a good amount of skill points and money to spend. Another thing to take away from the starting area is that listening to the NPCs will give you relevant knowledge for future quests. The most prominent example might be how to access the city, but other bits and pieces of information become relevant later on as well. If you question the Bandit and heed Xardas' advice not to tell people about him, you will find out that the man who is looking for you is working together with a former convict called Dexter. And Vino tells you about an orc he saw some days ago. This might come in handy once you decide to become the apprentice of the blacksmith. Gothic is old school. Nothing breaks the fourth wall once you start the game, with the pause screen being the only exception. There is no hand-holding like in modern games. You don't need a map early on, you just listen to the dialogue and figure out where to go. You don't need immersion-killing UIs or explanations how to draw your weapon and swing it. No mini-map or compass leading you to your objectives. No achievements for following basic instructions given to you by pop-up windows to give you that sweet, cheap rush of dopamine. The reward to figure these things out yourself is just so much greater. The feeling of finally having cleared the hidden passage and Lester's little dale below the tower, with quite some nice items and gold in your bag. You feel accomplished, but yet the story has just begun. Gothic 1 and 2 respect the player's intelligence, and I wish more games would do that nowadays. Minimaps are fine in some genres, but isn't it a testament to a great game when an NPC explains the way to a certain location and you can actually find it by following the instructions, analyzing your surroundings and exploring like you would in a real-world situation? I'd love to see modern games return to these old values. I had enough of video games feeling like some adventure simulator, like a crude mockery of the amazing role-playing games of the past. I want to dive into an adventure again, no hand-holding, just me, a stick to defend myself in an unknown road before me, and every treasure that I find is useful and valuable, not having the incentive to hoard everything that I find, but to actually use it. Oh, how I long for these journeys. Alas, but it seems we are not getting out of these swamps anytime soon. I hope you enjoyed this little excursion into Gothic 2's starting area. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like to see more content about Gothic. And with that said, have a great day. I will see you soon.